Hey guys, and welcome back to History Revision Success. So, I've got another amazing tale for you today in our series of What You Don't Learn at School. And today we're going to be looking at the life and the lost tomb of Cleopatra, the last queen of Egypt, famous seductress, and woman some archaeologists call the world's first celebrity. Cleopatra is famous for her actions in life, but also in death. Now, one of history's most famous female rulers, her tomb and her final resting place has never been found. Some historians believe she was buried in Alexandria, others at the ancient site of Deposuris Magna. What is known, however, is that no one has found her yet. So before we think about her death, who actually was Cleopatra? Now, nowadays you can find Cleopatra's name everywhere. She's been used as a brand to sell cigarettes, casinos, movies, and hotels. Let's consider who she really was in life. So, Cleopatra was the last active ruler of Egypt, and after her death, Egypt became a province of the Roman Empire. Her name means glory of her father, and she had very little, if any, Egyptian blood at all, being of Macedonian descent, part of the, I'm going to try and pronounce this right, Ptolemaic dynasty from the line of Alexander the Great. Ptolemaic pharaohs were crowned by the Egyptian high priest at Memphis, but then ruled largely from the Greek city of Alexandria. They spoke Greek and governed Egypt largely as a foreign ruler. Cleopatra was actually the only pharaoh ever to learn the native Egyptian language. It was also stated that she spoke Ethiopian, Hebrew, Arabic, and Syrian, along with Latin and Greek. Now, Cleopatra was born in 69 BC. Her father was Pharaoh Ptolemy VII. During the reign of her father, Roman censor Marcus Crassus suggested to the Senate that Rome should annex Ptolemaic Egypt. This was rejected, and Ptolemy VII offered lavish gifts to powerful Roman statesmen such as Pompey and Julius Caesar to try and protect his kingdom. Ptolemy VII gradually bankrupted himself through these lavish gifts. He also ceded territory to the Romans, which damaged his credibility. Eventually, he was exiled, accompanied by his daughter Cleopatra, who was about 11 at the time. Now, this is where it gets a little bit confusing. So, during this time of exile, his older daughter, Berenice, took power in Egypt, and it was during this time that Cleopatra first met Mark Antony, a young cavalry officer who she later obviously had her big love affair with. Now, with the support of Rome, Ptolemy VII won back control of Egypt and even had his daughter Berenice and her supporters executed. In his will, he designated his heirs as his daughter Cleopatra and his son Ptolemy VIII. Her father died around the 22nd of March in 51 BC, and at 18, Cleopatra became Queen of Egypt with her younger brother Ptolemy, who was likely around 10. Almost immediately, she was faced with a number of pressing issues: a famine caused by drought, low-level flooding of the Nile, lawless behavior of unemployed Roman soldiers left behind, and her father's debt of 17.5 million drachma, which was around 100 million pounds in today's money if you take inflation and conversion into account. Now, it's not until 50 BC, guys, remember another thing here, BC, before Christ, we move backwards. So 51 BC is earlier than 50 BC. So about a year or two later, her brother's name started to appear before hers in laws and on documents. It appears up to this point, she had been able to be the dominant ruler of the two. However, at this time, that relationship starts to break down and she's forced to flee, returning 2 years later to face her brother for the throne. Now, she realizes that she needs Roman support to regain her throne. And this is where Julius Caesar comes into the story. So he likewise, wanted to use Cleopatra in order to regain those debts of her father. And during this time, the famous love affair between her and Caesar began. Now, her brother fled and actually drowned in the Nile. And Cleopatra then married her second brother, Ptolemy IX. Sibling marriage was actually quite a long-held practice in Egypt at the time. And she gave birth to a son called Ptolemy Caesar. Now, it's not actually known if the fact that it was called Ptolemy Caesar refers to the fact that it was actually Julius Caesar's son. Now, her husband died in 44 BC, and she ruled with her infant son. And it was at this point that Mark Antony made his kind of appearance. He was the heir apparent after Caesar's murder in 44 BC to the Roman Empire. Now, after 11 years with Mark Antony and on the losing end of a war with Roman Emperor Octavian, a tragic ending befell the couple, very alike to Romeo and Juliet, the story we all know. Now, Antony received the news that Cleopatra had died when she hadn't. He received news that she had died when actually she hadn't, and he fell on his own sword, so he committed suicide. He had himself carried to Cleopatra's retreat and died with her there. Cleopatra then buried Antony and committed suicide herself. Classical writers came to believe that she died with a snake bite, an asp, the symbol of divine royalty. They were buried together, as was their wish. Now, this is where it gets confusing, because the long-lost tomb of Antony and Cleopatra remains unknown, somewhere near Alexandria, Egypt. Many scholars believe that her tomb is probably now in an area underwater due to coastal erosion or has been buried under modern-day development. Some scholars believe her tomb is at Taposiris Magna, but after 10 years of work there, no evidence has been found. To this day, we don't know. Maybe one of you guys will grow up to be a famous archaeologist and go off and find the lost tomb of Cleopatra and Mark Antony.